Okay, I had a request to make a Valentine card, and I've already made one and demonstrated how to do it, and I thought I would go ahead and do a more traditional Valentine's card this time. I'm using pretty and pink paper, some white glossy paper, and ruby red paper. Pretty and pink is standard note card size. This one's 1/4 of an inch smaller on the side, so it ends up being 1/8 of an inch on each edge in from the pink. Then this one is 3 1/4 square, and this one's 3 inches square. I'm using the heart stamp from the Like a Latte set from Stampin' Up, and then I'm using some heart stamps from Close to My Heart, which are clear little stamps that are really nice because you can actually see where you're placing it, as opposed to the rubber stamps where it's a little harder to judge where you're stamping. Okay, I'm going to be using ruby red ink and positively pink ink. I'm going to show you some fun techniques that are a little bit different than what I've shown you before. So I'm going to start out with my glossy paper. It's very important that you use glossy paper for this technique, and you will see why in just a moment. Things are going to take just a little bit longer to dry on the glossy paper, so make sure that you're not sticking your fingers back on it and smearing it. It doesn't take too long, but just a little bit longer than it would on regular paper. And I'm going to be doing what's called a rock and roll technique. You can do this with any two colors that kind of go together the way like pink and red would, or a light blue and a dark blue, or a pink and a purple. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the lighter of the two colors and you're going to ink up your image. Usually works best with a solid image as opposed to an outline one. So you're going to ink up your image, and then you're going to go to your darker ink pad and you're just going to roll around the corners, roll around the edges of that stamp. And then on your glossy paper, you're going to do a twist. So I kind of call this the rock and roll twist. You put your stamp on the glossy paper and you twist it. And it gives you almost like a little tie-dyed effect. So I'm going to keep doing that all over the page. You don't even have to re-ink it every time. So I'm just kind of making a soft heart background on this glossy paper. The dual color technique shows up a little bit more if you use something like a pink and a purple. Here it just adds a little bit of depth to the image. And I'm not even going to mess with the middle because I'm going to have other paper covering the middle of my glossy sheet here. Okay, so I've got some nice little hearts all around here. It's kind of a fun little Valentine's pattern. Make sure that I'm kind of getting enough on the edges so that it doesn't look like I've not let any of them hang over at all. I'm going to set this aside for a minute, and I'm going to complete my main image. And I have these clear stamps from Close to My Heart. It's their You and Me set. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up the words You and Me in my ruby red ink. Now, these clear stamps actually have kind of a different feel to them than rubber stamps do. So they actually stamp a little differently, but they're still really nice, and I like to be able to see where I'm placing my images. And you can just get a clear block and you pull them off and wipe it off if you got a little bit of ink on it, and then use your block again, stick a new stamp on, and go from there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do a little layering here. I've got this large heart image. It has some little butterflies kind of cut out of it. So I stamp that on, and then I'm going to take a smaller heart image, put that on there, and I'm going to ink it up in the pink, which is called Positively Pink. And I'm going to stamp that partially layered over it. So 2 hearts for you and me. And I'm going to swipe a little bit of Positively Pink ink on the edge of this pink square here, just to kind of distress it a little bit. dress up the edge. I always like to do that because when you layer one piece of cardstock onto another, sometimes it just looks funny if you haven't done something to the edge. And I'm going to put just a little bit of ruby red on there too. It's called a direct-to-paper technique because you're putting the paper directly on the pad. And then I'm just going to tape that on with my double-sided tape. You can use whatever adhesive you like, whatever's your favorite. My favorite is just plain old Scotch double-sided tape. Holds very strongly and is easy to work with. So I'm going to tape that on here. And then I'm going to tape this on top of my glossy paper. Like so. Get that kind of centered there. And then I'm going to tape the whole thing on top of my card. Tape that right on there. And now I have a very traditional looking Valentine card with a fun technique. Which I call the rock and roll twist, because you're stamping, you're rolling, and then you twist it on your glossy paper. Something else that I've done, you can see here on another card I made where I used the pink and the purple, and the rock and roll technique shows up a little more. I also punched out the corners on the edges of this paper, which really is a nice touch that you can put onto your cards. But if you don't have a corner punch, it looks great just to leave it with the regular corners that you have on a regular piece of paper. So, enjoy and good luck making your Valentine's cards.